Go up to any random basketball fan and ask them who Stephen Curry is. It's almost a 100% certainty that they know who he is, what he's accomplished in his career, and how his play style has completely transformed the game of basketball to become a more perimeter-oriented game. Most will know the highlights just by hearing the commentary, and many still can't fathom his ability to hit ridiculously deep, long-range shots on such a consistent level. There quite simply isn't another player in the world that can do what he does. Well, at least in the men's game, because if you tune into one of the Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball games, you might see some vivid similarities between him and a young rising superstar named Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark. What can Caitlin Clark do?
Clark has been an absolute monster since high school when it comes to scoring the ball, but that's become far more well known the past couple years with a historically great play at the collegiate level, even receiving nods from players like Kevin Durant on social media. Looking at some of these clips, it's unbelievable that she can knock down these shots at not only a consistent level, but so often too. Now, a direct comparison to Stephen Curry may be a bit absurd and out of line, I agree with that. This is the greatest shooter of all time we're talking about. But when it comes to shooting the ball, I think it's fair to say the two are in their own respective tiers when it comes to the leagues that they play in. Clark's offensive abilities are simply absurd, and I want to break it down in today's video. So in today's video, I'll be breaking down some film of Caitlin Clark this season, what has made her so phenomenal for the Hawkeyes, and overall be discussing whether she can carry this Iowa squad to a deep March Madness run this month. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more women's basketball content like this, I'd love to reach 2,000 subscribers on this channel, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about Caitlin Clark. A few months ago, I made a video detailing the early season struggles of Caitlin Clark, who had not seemed like the player that she was in her freshman season, in a major shooting slump at the time. However, she's completely turned things around since then, and is making a legitimate case for the National Player of the Year award in 2022. So I think it's only right for me to give her some credit in a video like this. At the time of that video, Clark was averaging just 22 points a game on poor efficiency, about 37% from the field and 25% from three. But now that's increased back to what we normally expect from the young superstar and more, with their posting numbers of 27.5 points, 8 rebounds and over 8 assists nightly. Just to make it clear how elite this is, Caitlin Clark leads the nation in both points per game and assists per game. This is easily player of the year type statistics. It's amazing how well she's turned a year around after the slow start. The months of January and February have been where Clark has taken a 180, with her scoring 46 points in a game on the 7th of Feb, as well as just recently a 38-point outing against that same Michigan side on the 27th, this time around coming out with the W. Overall for these 2 months, Clark averaged 31.5 points and shot exactly 50% from the field and just under 43% from three, proving the shooting slump she was in was no more. Her consistency since the turn of the new year has simply been incredible. As a result of Clark's impressive turnaround since the start of the season, she's earned a number of accomplishments, continuing to elevate her status as one of women's college basketball's greats. She's earned Big Ten Player of the Week 5 times already this season, and has already recorded 5 triple-doubles in the year too. She also became the 8th fastest player to reach 1,000 career points in NCAA history, men's and women's, and joined the likes of Luka Doncic and James Harden as some of the only players in American basketball history to record back-to-back 30-point triple-doubles. I also think it's really impressive how successful Iowa have been with Clark leading them. Obviously, this isn't a top 10 contender or anything, but considering the roster construction, Clark's impact is invaluable to this team. While Clark does get help from players like Monica Zanano pretty regularly, I'll admit that, sometimes it does feel like Clark is the only one truly creating offense for the Hawkeyes, so she does have a tendency to carry this team in my opinion. for her to be able to lift this Hawkeye squad to the position they're in now and be within a chance to win the Big Ten title this season is extremely impressive, and I think that deserves a lot of love. Whether that's some more recognition in the media or simply giving her the National Player of the Year award. Now, I'm not here to make the case for Caitlin to win that award. Personally, I think Aaliyah Boston will win it anyway, and that's not the point of this video. But I still want to emphasize the insane impact Clark has on her team and how they're nowhere near a top 25 team in the country without her. Anyway though, let's move on now away from the stats and figures. Let's take a deep dive into some of the film of Clark's game and see what she's doing that's made her Iowa's best ever player in just 2 seasons of action, and what defines her as a generational talent. Obviously, we have to start with her ridiculous shooting and shot creation abilities. Clark can create extremely well off the dribble, whether that's moving into jump shots off screens, pulling up from basically anywhere in the half court, dribbling into step back threes, you name it. She's able to do it at a ridiculously high level. I mean, I can describe her scoring skills all I want, how pure her form is, how talented she is at creating space and getting a shot off, even if that moment of space barely lasts more than a second or two. But watching the games does more justice than what I can say. She's being heavily guarded. There's like no space between her and her defender, yet she's able to constantly find room and knock down shots. Look at these shots from her 38-point outing against Michigan, for example. In transition off the defensive rebound, Clark weaves her way through multiple Michigan defenders before pulling up well behind the 3-point line. While many would consider this a bad shot, considering how far out she is and the shot clock situation, when Clark has room like this, it's best for her to shoot, because for her, that's often an amazing look. Michigan was scrambling back on defense, as you can see here. All the defensive attention is on her. Every Michigan player is looking at what Clark is doing here. None of them are communicating though, and Caitlin takes advantage of that and punishes the lax coverage. These deep shot makes are not a rarity from Clark either. Honestly, it sometimes feels like these are a go-to shot. And that's not a bad thing either, because she's crazily efficient from that range. Look at these shots throughout the game against Michigan. Pretty much all of these are from logo range or are heavily contested 3-point shots. I don't care how big Iowa's team logo is at center court. These logo shots she hits over and over again at a ridiculously efficient level, I might add, are damn near half court most of the time. And some of these are taken with still over 10 seconds left in the shot clock, which makes them even wilder to me and truly makes her such a unique and dynamic talent. There's no one else in the NCAAW or even in the men's league, to be completely honest, that's doing this at such a consistent and regular basis. You just have to pick her up before half court, because as you can see, if she finds just a little bit of room, even if it's over 5 feet behind the 3-point line, she's getting to that space and letting it fly without hesitation. As a result of this insane shooting ability, Clark's gravity is enormous. She constantly keeps the defense on their heels, as there's always the possibility she's letting it fly as soon as she passes half court. With that gravity, she's able to manipulate the defense in ways that only a couple of other players in the NCAAW can. It allows her to attack the mid-range, proving to be a dangerous threat from the top of the key, but also get inside to attack the rim. Here, she's a decent finisher, but she's also got an innate ability to find her teammates, as the defense is almost always completely focused on her. But I'll talk more about that soon. In my eyes, Caitlin excels the most in transition. Her pull-up jumper is so pure. She has the ability to pull up from anywhere and knock down shots, which is really why you can't call her pull-up logo shots bad shots. By pushing the pace, the defense can't set up, giving Clark more space to shoot, and as I mentioned before, the more space she has, the easier it is for her to dominate. So again, getting her in transition as much as possible is what will allow her to make the most impact in a game. I've talked a whole lot about Clark's on-ball shot, but not her off-ball stuff much yet. But her ability to move off the ball and get open for catch and shoot looks is also fantastic. Clark, as a great shooter, is undoubtedly elite as well on the catch, and her smooth form and quick trigger allows her to make the most of a small window of time she has to shoot the ball. Overall, Clark's pure shooting form and incredible range has allowed her to become a near unstoppable force in the half court. It's almost impossible to defend her, you just have to pray it doesn't go in when she lets it fly. That's not the only area though where she can punish the defense. She's also incredibly talented at scoring in the mid-range, getting inside the paint, and of course, getting out in transition. Combine her elite catch and shoot and off the dribble shot creation, you have to admit that she's one of the best ever scorers to grace the NCAA. It's as simple as that. I could go on all day about the array of ways Clark punishes the defense with her scoring arsenal, but I think I've covered everything pretty decently here by looking at her transition play, off the dribble scoring, catch and shoot looks, etc. With that said though now, that is really just the tip of the iceberg for Clark when it comes to her offensive package, because not only is she a great shooter, but also a really talented playmaker, and that deserves a bit of love too. In my eyes, Clark is an amazing playmaker, and that's often overshadowed by her all-time shooting touch. On the season, she's averaging about 8 assists per game, a brilliant figure by itself, but that's increased to over 9 dimes a night in the months of January and February. She broke Iowa's single game assist record back at the end of January, finishing with 18 assists against Penn State, and though it was nothing too fancy, no ridiculous full court passes like you might see from a passing wizard like Paige Bueckers, there's still a lot of film in that game that proves she's really talented in this area. From just watching the highlights, you may think Clark is a ball hog who takes ill-advised shots, but in reality, she's a really patient player that lets the game come to her, and it often results in her making the right pass at the right time. This clip here against Penn State really exemplifies Clark's playmaking and unselfishness. Here in transition, she remains calm and collected, scouring the court as she pushes the ball on the fast break. Eventually, Zanano gets a break on a defender, and Clark is able to perfectly lay it off at the right time, resulting in an open layup. Clark doesn't panic, she waits until the opening arrives and then commits to the pass. It's the little things like this that make Caitlin such a great offensive player, because she has not only the ability to pick apart the defense with her scoring, but also her passing too. It's a deadly combination, a dangerous combination, and for the most part, especially when the supporting cast is firing too, Iowa become an extremely dangerous team that a lot of the top dogs like UConn, Stanford, Louisville, South Carolina won't want to see in the first couple of rounds of March Madness. On that note though, how far will Iowa go in March Madness? Can Caitlin Clark take them far? It'll really come down to the region they're placed in my opinion, but I think a couple of upsets could be on the cards that lead them to at the very least a Sweet 16 appearance. Caitlin Clark sometimes carries this team, but in a more half-court oriented game in the postseason, she's going to need all the help she can get from her teammates. If they all step up, in particular Zanano, Warnock, and Gabby Marshall, I think a place in the Elite 8 could happen. I wouldn't say it's an overly realistic possibility, but I can for sure say that's their ceiling at this point. Currently, Iowa are expected to play in the Wichita region, which has them as the 4th seed amongst Baylor, Arizona, and Louisville. I think those teams are beatable, and while Iowa definitely aren't favorites at the moment, I think there'll be really competitive games that would be deemed winnable for the Hawkeyes. Realistically though, I probably see Iowa making the Sweet 16 and crashing out there, but hey, it's not called March Madness for nothing, so really, anything is possible. Overall though, I really can't put enough emphasis on how talented of a player Clark is and how much better she's become the last couple months. She's taken her game to a whole new level since her freshman year, now scoring at a much more efficient rate and being utilized in a system that better maximizes her strengths, with improvements in the playmaking department too. Clark has become a mega star the past couple months and will no doubt be a top candidate for the National Player of the Year. When it comes to pure hooping talent, there aren't many in the same tier as Caitlin Clark, and that's why I thoroughly believe she's going to be a generational talent in the NCAAW and WNBA for years to come. March is going to be very exciting for Iowa fans. Clark will be must-watch basketball, and I really can't wait to see what's next for her and this team. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? What are your thoughts on Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.